part 2, installing and running DAQ. So if you'll forgive me for my umming and my ahhing and my humbling and my bumbling, this is going to be kind of a very hands-on start to this. So I'm just going to kind of do things with the hope that you'll go through the exact same steps to install this. So what might happen is that I do things wrong and that I have to fix them on the fly. But I think that is a more realistic scenario than just watching a video and trying to replicate everything that happens perfectly. So let's see how this goes. So the first step to doing anything with DAQ is of course installing it. So what version of DAQ am I running? I'm going to be running this exact commit right here. So if we go to our kind of command line thing, I've got a folder called projects, folder called all hands on DAQ, and in the DAQ.training folder, that's where all these videos are, so we won't be touching those. But this is where I'm going to sort of hang my hat for all of these, all the following tutorial videos. Okay, so first things first, let's clone it. So I'm going to use HTTPS to clone because I don't have an SSH key that works with this repository. So I'm just going to pretend, I don't need to pretend because I am. I'm going to be installing this as you would be installing this. So let's do that. So standard stuff, gets cloning it, and then that will create a directory in this directory called DAQ. If we go into DAQ, then we can see that my branch is up to date with origin/master. Let's commit, working tree clean. However, what I'm going to do is do exactly. Why can't I? I failed. What I'm going to do is do exactly this. So I'm going to git check out this exact commit. So now if you check out this very same commit, then we will be running the exact same code. And that commit is from, when is it from? 5 days ago. Is there a date somewhere? No, it's 5 days from today. So we go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So this is the code as of the 22nd of January, 2020. If the code changes drastically, then I'll have to redo these videos, but it shouldn't change too drastically. And if you're watching this in 2025, then maybe things shouldn't have changed too much, but I would hope they would have. Anyway, I'll stop rambling. Let's go back to the present view. Yes, so I have checked out that thing, and I have this. So I'm going to go over this in a lot more detail later, but this is what DAQ looks like. We have an idea configuration thing for those of you that use Eclipse, IntelliJ, and stuff like that. And then we have some binary things, and then we have a bin hack. We have some commands which we're going to use to install run things, DAQ itself, and loads of other stuff here. So basically, when you check out this commit, this is what you should see. And now I'm going to refer to the wiki page on getting started with DAQ. So first of all, prerequisites. Prerequisites include Git. So you wouldn't have been able to pull down this repository without Git, so we will skip that one for now. And what we need to do, first of all, is do the bin setup base command. Now, I've already done this, so I wonder what will happen. Should do probably about nothing. Yeah? Anyway, so let's have a look at what setup base is actually doing. So DAQ is orchestrated by an awful lot of shell scripts, which kind of means that at the moment anyway, DAQ only really works on, well, the installation step of DAQ anyway, only really works on machines that are running Debian. So I am running Ubuntu, there we go, so that kind of works. So I'm running Ubuntu version, what is it, 18.04.2 LTS, which is, I think the newest version is 19.10 or something like that. And this DAQ has also been tested on Debian 9.4 and above, I believe. If you try and run these shell scripts on a Mac, then it kind of won't work because Macs don't use the apt-get system. And also DAQ uses a lot of things that are kind of Linux specific, such as Open vSwitch, which I'll go into in a bit more detail later. Okay, so set of base has worked. And then because we're going to go into kind of developer mode, we need to run this bin setup dev script. Once again, I've already done this, so let's see what happens. Maybe it'll just kind of work. So it's found that I'm running Bionic, which is cool, so that might change for you. Let's go to some setup tools, it's installing pip over and over again, getting all the Python dependencies, some Firebase stuff, got some cache things going on. If you see this error here, like Google Cloud Core, don't worry about that too much. Yeah, right now this is cloning Mininet, which is cloning another repository into my repository, and it's cloning Faucet. So Faucet being the software-defined network controller, we need all of Faucet to make DAQ work. Okay. So when you finish doing all that, set up dev script. You should have another directory called Faucets, which is all the Faucet, and then you have another directory called Mininet. If you try and run any DAQ build or run commands without Faucet or Mininet, then it won't work because that's what you need. Those are just the dependencies. Okay, so that's the install. So running DAQ, you might be tempted if you see the command run scripts, just be like, yeah, let's just run it straight away. We need to build all the Docker files that make DAQ work first. So it's just a small interlude into there. So these are the kind of Docker files which make up the DAQ framework. So we have the Docker file aardvark. Let's just get some syntax highlighting on here. So every DAQ container that runs uses this as a base. So everything is kind of like tested on Ubuntu Bionic, working directory of root, and then we include our reporting utils, and we install stuff, and then we install the basic amount of Debian packages that make DAQ work. So that's NetTools, Bash, IProot, ping, tcdump, trace, vim, JQ, which is a system of parsing JSON files on the command line, and nano. If ever we need to go into one of our running Docker containers and change some files on the fly. I don't know. But yeah, so we've got to build all that stuff before it happens. So let us do that. So I'm just going to run, rather than sudo command build, I'm just going to run command build. And that will take a little while. So as is said here in a playful tone, this program, meaning command build, is likely to take a long time to get to. So go get yourself a cup of your favorite hot or cool beverage, not cold beverage, just cool. Thankfully, I have built some of these things before, so being able to take advantage of the Docker cache, which hopefully speed things up. But yeah, I'll be going over this a bit more in later videos as well, but while this is happening, I'll just kind of vaguely cover what's going on here. So we're activating a VM, right? So Python has the concept of VMs using Python 3. So that's all that means. So it's creating a virtual environment, so we're not overwriting packages on our local machine, and the VM that it creates it is just there. That's what that is. So you might also notice that I'm using VS Code for my code editing, and the directories down here. So we've got build, Faucet, Mininet, and indeed VM. Those are all grayed out because those are sort of included in the gitignore file here. So if you see that, don't worry, that is meant to happen. How are we doing? Yeah, okay. So we are skipping local system.conf because we haven't got a local mode. We will go into what that means later on, but at the moment it's not an error, it's fine. And we are including tests from misc hotest.conf. So if that hasn't been configured at all with anything, then it'll use some happy defaults. So if we have a look at host tests in misc.conf, then we can see here that we need to build Docker. So we need to do. So this is kind of like a domain-specific language, a DSL within DAQ, which tells you how to build things. It's based on tests for so officially included tests in this context means basically everything within the Docker thing. The not officially included tests are everything within the subsets right here. So if on the mailing list you hear about DAQ proper or the DAQ framework, what's being talked about there is the DAQ framework, which is this collection of Python files here, and the officially included tests are everything in here. And if we want to add, so we've got to build Docker, so we build everything in here. That's what we do. And then we're adding pass, and that connects to this test pass right here. We're adding fail, test fail, ping, ping, backnet, links to that backnet here. And then we're including another build.conf, because this hosts hosts_tests.conf is a build configuration file, and we can include other ones, which is all good. And we are including subset, pentests, build.conf. So subset, pentests, build.conf. So we're including these tests as well. And we're adding same sort of thing. We're adding nmap. So we're building subset pentests, which would be this. And we are adding nmap, right there. Hello, failed a little bit. Oh, I'm getting ahead of myself. Subset. There we go. So we're adding nmap there, adding brute right there, adding discover there. And if I were to add something here, like add no test or whatever, then DAQ would throw a little bit of an error, but I don't believe it would fail. So let's figure what's going on there. Okay, so we're building faucet. Now, thankfully, while things are building, we can track what's going on in the build directory here. So I'm just going to go open up another sort of terminal tab, and then I'm going to monitor how the build is doing. Because what can sometimes happen is when you're building tests, things can hang. So Docker isn't perfect, and neither is the configuration of my laptop. I'm not going to beat around the bush. So sometimes it can just so when you're building things, it can just hang on faucet for ages, or it can hang on fo, and that means there could be an error with the configuration of your Docker daemon. So maybe the build, the Docker builder, let's call it, doesn't have access to the internet. But for now, if we just do a tail -f build, and then we're currently on Docker build fo, then we can see okay. So this is doing some stuff. Can't initialize a front end. Probably okay. But yeah. We ever want to look at the faucet one, then we can see that the build is complete. We're building a using container, we're doing a command faucet, and that's all it is. Just going to watch the fo one. It's all good. Yeah, generally if you're having issues with network connectivity within your Docker environment from the outside world, because of course Docker needs to install things from the internet to build things, and that's what's happening here. You'll see a load of errors which say, I don't know, like certificate expired, maybe not certificate expired, but you'll see some kind of HTTP error. But now, thankfully, I'm downloading Gradle, and everything's kind of going well. Okay, I'm going to pause here and wait until that's finished, because I don't want to get ahead of myself. Does that restart it? Yeah, it does. I can edit this out. Brilliant. Okay, so just while that's doing things, just in case you are having some network issues at this point, so I can see that thankfully, I'm just going to do a star thing here. Everything's kind of going okay. But what can happen sometimes is if we do an if config, which just shows all the network adapters on our system, what can happen is the Docker network interface can override, let's say, your Wi-Fi interface. So I'm on Wi-Fi at the moment, but if we type the command root -n, you might need to install something on your machine to tell us, then we can see that each of these interfaces has a certain metric. The lower the metric, the higher the priority of the interface. So we can see that Docker here Docker 0 has a metric of 0, which means that, Docker 0 is going to be what the computer uses first to try and, do network stuff. In my case, it doesn't seem to be interfering, but I can see that after that, my next metric is 600, and I've got two that are 600. And I've got one that's 1000, and those all refer to the WLP1S0 interface. So, and these all have just destinations and different gateways. Anyway, I'm not going to claim to be an expert on root -n, or indeed kernel IP routing tables, but sometimes they can get messed up. And look here first if your Docker build step isn't working because of network stuff. The way to redo these metrics, or reorder these metrics rather, is through the if metric command. So I won't do it now, but yeah, because it'll mess up what's happening with my build step. But if we just do an if metric, then we can see how to use it. You've got an if metric interface and then a metric. So if I wanted to change the well, that's handy. Sorry, I just got an email. If I wanted to change the metric of the Docker 0 interface to put it above WLP1S0, then I would do if, well, I would likely do sudo, sudo, whatever you want to call it, if metric, and I would do Docker 0, and I would set that to 10,000 or something like that, and I would press enter. So it's just a little tip for if you're having very strange network errors with Docker. And that will come in handy later on when we start plugging in network interfaces to connect DAQ to physical switches. Because DAQ itself creates a load of network interfaces, etc., etc. Okay, so what have you got here? So we've built 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 Docker files for DAQ to use. And we can see that we're currently building the test hold, which is good. Okay, so just get maybe some background. Auto magically, the build has completed. All right. So if everything's correct, then it'll say at the end updating dot build hash, and the dot build hash. Is that in here? Build hash. There we go. So the build hash script is literally just this. So I won't go into what it does, but it just basically makes sure that if anything changes within these three folders, be it MISC or Docker or subset or utils, if you change any of those files, then it probably means it needs to rebuild everything, because you don't want to run old Docker files on slightly different versions of the code, because then you might get yourself into trouble. So that's kind of like a safety mechanism, just to keep everyone's sanity. And I might go a little bit more into that later. Okay, so we've built it, and we can see that we've built things. If we type Docker image ls, and I've got a whole load of stuff to be fair, but we can see that we've got a DAQ. Well, all the ones that begin with DAQ basically were built about a minute ago, and these should be the sizes that you see of all your containers as well. If any of the sizes are 0 megabytes, then something's gone wrong. So look out for that. Okay, so next step, running DAQ. Just referring to the documentation again. So build, and then as it says on here, we can do that tail -f build thing. And the first run, we're going to do a command run -s. So let's fire it off, command run -s. Okay, so everything looks to be okay. So the first thing it says here, hopefully, is that we have no local system.conf found. So what we're doing is we're copying a systembase.conf from the MISC folder. Just a note on the MISC folder. So the MISC folder is basically where kind of examples are, but also where sort of agreed defaults are. So because I ran DAQ then without a local folder, which we'll go into later, DAQ created a local folder for me, and it copied misc /systembase.conf. So let's just go into there. I copy this into here. And what that's doing is kind of pointing you towards the agreed standard that your site configuration will go in a local folder. So every bit of configuration that you put in to do with configuring this instance of DAQ will go in local site or somewhere else. It just happens you can have a different so things are in local, yes, but you can have different folders in here. So I could have, for example, another site, and you can configure the local site path to be this or this. But if you don't want to do that and you want to use DAQ as default, then local site will do just fine. So yeah, so in the background, DAQ has been running, and there's quite robust kind of logging setup. So all this logging is from Python files. So DAQ is a framework that uses Python to orchestrate Docker containers. That's kind of what it does. So this log is from a Python file called gcp.py. This is from config. This is from the runner. This is from network. And then we've got a bit of warning from the host. And then yeah. So, but yeah, we can happily see that at the moment we got test mmap running. In the past, we got a test pass running. Got a brute, and this output here should basically look like this. This might be from an older version of DAQ, so it might be very, very slightly different. But hopefully, when DAQ finishes, yeah, this is the whenever DAQ's running and I see this, yes, everything has worked correctly. Because from Mininet, we're stopping controllers, we're stopping links, and we're stopping some switches, and then at the end of it all, basically DAQ should return with an exit code 0, as all good Unix programs should. Okay, there you go. Demo run, exit 0. So there you go. Well done. We've just run DAQ. So I just run, I started DAQ running with command run -s, which is just one of many options. So there are other things. So -s means single shot, which, well, it says it here quite explicitly. We don't repeat the test, just do one run. So running DAQ in single shot mode means that all your configured tests will run once and only once. If any of the tests fail, then they'll fail, and then you'll just basically means that per device you'll get one report. So if you have 4 devices plugged into DAQ, then you'll get 4 reports. If you were to run DAQ without any options at all, so kind of like that, then it would rerun all of the tests ad infinitum. There's also other things which I won't go into fully, but there's debug mode, which is more logging essentially. Event trigger, fail mode, there's of course the show help option. So let's just do that for a sec. Ooh. Well, maybe not. Doesn't show help just yet. There's a keep hold, result linger, and no test. So I'm not going to go over any of these because for a kind of a quick and dirty starter with DAQ, you don't necessarily need them. But just to let you know that all the other options are here. Some of them may not work right now, but if they don't work, as ever, post an issue on GitHub and see what happens. Okay, so reports. So we may have just run DAQ, but what did we actually do? Because we're not testing a device, are we? We're not doing anything. There's no device plugged into DAQ. At the moment, so my current setup is I have a laptop open up, and I have no external switch. I have no external device whatsoever. But yet, we still have a report. So if we look in, firstly, the inst folder, then we see, if I just refresh this a little bit, it's not very good, is it? So what I was expecting to see was a report of some variety, which is here. So let's come back to the inst folder. Sounds confusing a little bit. Anyway, so in your local folder, what DAQ does is whenever you plug a device into a open flow switch connected to DAQ, it'll tell you the MAC address, and then it'll make a folder in local site MAC addresses, and it'll give you the configuration of that device. Then it'll also give you a markdown report. So this is kind of the power of DAQ. So every device every test run generates a report. So for each device, there's one report, and that report will give you the results from whatever tests run. So we can see DAQ scan report for device 9802, blah, 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 and overall device result is a pass. All right. So the tests that run were the switch ping, we got network boot, and we got security ports map. I won't go into these too much at this stage, but the module ping basically pings the switch that the device is connected to, and it pings the device to see if it's available. Okay, so we can kind of see that we haven't got a local IP configured, so we haven't got a network switch. So I'm going to test that because I've got no switch plugged into my device. Base switch ping, so we're going to skip it. But then my device had itself allocated an IP address, and the IP address was 10.20.8.163, and DAQ was able to ping it and reach it, so that's fine. The module mmap, which kind of makes sure that all of the TCP and UDP ports that you want open are open, and all the ports you want closed are closed. That passed as well. The module brute, as it says here, is merely an educational test, and it's mainly meant to kind of fill out an initial report in circumstances such as these. All it basically does is test if port TCP port 10,000 is not open. But yeah, and that's skipped. So there we go. So that's all that is. Also, it spits out a PDF report, which is kind of easier to share, and that kind of looks the same, but with a non-dark mode background. Okay. So what I was expecting to see before was something in the inst folder. Okay, sorry. So we can see here that we have a command run.log, which basically tells you how it run. You can see how faucet is set up like that. You can see the config of that running thing, and this configuration is literally just a straight copy and paste of this right here. Yeah, pretty much just without the comments. That's kind of it. So that is our first run of DAQ after installing it. But yeah, as I was just kind of touching on before, what has actually been tested? So what we've just done is, if we just have a little look into the yeah, no, I'm gonna have to redo this.